Hello and welcome to the class. My name is Margerie de Kaer in Arvon. Before we begin, I did want to give a trigger warning in regards to childhood death as an aspect of social culture and in regards to the dangers children faced and animal bones being used as toys. So I'll give you a few seconds. Everyone and everything plays. Take a look at the items around you. Tell me, how would you play with these items? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. The fact that you were able to come up with ways to play with something regardless of what your background is emphasizes what I say when everyone and everything has played. There have been numerous modern studies showing that play is not just a human construct, but that all species of mammals have some sort of play. We can all see the correlation of kittens and puppies, or young monkeys or apes playing and running, and the absolute chaos of human toddlers. Studying childhood in the past and even now is murky because children have always occupied an ambiguous position in society. This is due to several factors, one of which, as any parent or caregiver of children can attest to, is the ever-transitional state of childhood. One moment they are a babe in arms, and a moment later they are fully grown, living their own fulfilling lives. Historical folklorists in the study of children's games, Allison James and Alan Prout in 1990, have put forth the concept that childhood may in fact be one of the most ancient characteristics of humankind and fundamental to our uniqueness as a human species. Humans experience firsthand through their own youth and then on through their children and grandchildren, which is actually what led me to think about the subject. I was in the middle of making some sock monkey dolls for my grandchildren while listening to a class at the Shire of Stonegate fighter practice, and it struck me. How long have grandmothers and parents been making toys for children? What type of toys have children played with through time? How has the life of a child changed or remained basically the same through time? Each society did in fact have different social construct of what childhood actually was. All cultures in time did actually hold some record of playthings used by and created by children. How many of us have witnessed children from toddlers to young adults running around? I myself witnessed the sameness in behavior on a regular basis, not only with my grandchildren, but also with my dogs at the park. We're going to split this up into certain themes of the social construct of childhood in regards to the different developmental stages. First would be needing full care, infants to about 3 or 4. Then being somewhat self-autonomous, about 5 to 7 or 8 years of age. And then learning to fit into societal groups according to gender, enslavement, ethnic, and economic background, and what each society had as a definition of what childhood meant. Modern society on the research of necessity of play for brain and societal development would also have applied in part to ancient childhood, not only to give parents a break, but to create bonds in their society. Groupings to carry over into adulthood. For example, how many of us have friends from grade school, junior high, high school, college that we are still friends with? One of the main reasons that the knowledge of how children were viewed is due to the lack of physical evidence. Any childhood toys or playthings would have disintegrated unless made of durable material like bone, fired clay, or metal. And knowledge becomes even more murky due to the fact that early archaeologists assumed that all children were treated like adults. All children were not loved and nurtured, but just around to keep the bloodline going or to be an available workforce. And they all viewed small artifacts as only 100% being related to religious meaning. And children, like women, up until about the 1980s or 1990s, were viewed as a muted group when it came to any findings because of the patriarchal nature of the archaeologist. And Tom McNeill pointed this out, noting that reading of historians on medieval castles would or could lead a reader to believe that only two species populated castles, men and horses. So within those age groups, I am also going to separate out separate time frames of prehistorical or Paleolithic, childhood in ancient Rome and Greece, and then we'll look at both Viking-era children, pre-Christian and post-Christian conversion, and early and late medieval studies of children. The first evidence of childhood play actually comes from spinning toys and small clay pots made by children. Bone carvings that showed evidence of being handled often led to the theory that children played with them, and a chalk drum that was found in a burial site in England with 3 children, 2 of them were holding hands. Within this archaeological evidence of spinning toys from prehistoric times, the archaeologists looked at the toys and could see some that were definitely made by adults and some that were made by children. And with the unfinished ones, the archaeologist came to the conclusion that adults showed children how to make these toys, and then the children were in such a hurry to go play with them that they quickly made them and then went and played. There's also evidence of 48 clay vessels excavated in a dig site dated from 3,600 to 4,000 years ago that show small fingerprints on the unfinished clay vessels, along with the evidence of more adult finished clay pots, once again showing how adults were showing children how to make them. And if this was just in regards to showing how children to make them for the sake of this is your job, they would not have fired those clay pots. They would have actually reintegrated that clay back into what was being used by everyone. So they chose to fire those clay pots. In the Greek city of Corinth, found 256 small figurines. These are 2,000-year-old toys. You can actually see how these look very similar to the toys that we have now. This is the bone animal that I was referring to that is completely polished from use of play. These terracotta dolls were found by Susan Langdon from the University of Missouri, and the theory of how they might relate to the worship of Demeter and Cora or Persephone in regards to the transition stage from childhood to adulthood, or the giving up of childhood things when getting married. And there are several of these dolls. You can see the articulation carved into the dolls. You can see the paddle dolls. You can see the detail within these dolls, and you can see how they go together just like dolls would today in regards to either marionettes or Barbie dolls. Look exactly the same type of connections. This is an ancient toy collection. You can see the clay tops. You can see clay balls that possibly would have been used like marbles today. You can see the clay animals, the dolls, as we had looked at earlier, the paddle dolls, the spinning toys, and the larger dolls, all of which could look similar to toys that they have nowadays. These balls would have been made out of clay and painted. As I stated earlier, they would have been kind of more like marbles that we use today, or croquet balls that we use today. And this chalk drum was actually found in the graveyard. It had 3 markings on the top of it, which led the archaeologists to look for 3 separate personages in that gravesite. In Syria, ancient clay horses and wheeled carts were found. You can take a look at these. Once again, they look very similar to something that would have been made by a child nowadays. It's very rough, but that definitely shows that a child made it and played with it. Toys have the same look regardless of time and place. You can see the one on the right-hand side of the screen is the shape of a rider and a horse done in around the 4th century, whereas the ancient Syrian one has the same kind of look. Childhood treasured dolls. Once again, we're referencing the Greek terracotta doll with a doll made of perhaps linen or muslin of some kind, very similar to what the Raggedy Ann and Andy dolls today or the soft cotton dolls today would have been made of. Both of them very loved, both of them very treasured. Both of them a symbol of childhood play and a moment in time. You can see through these pictures some things never change. You can see the child on the Greek vase playing with a rattle in something that looks like a high chair, and then you can also see the recreation in 2018 of the rattles that a mother made. You can see the same play in different era. Once again, the Greek statue showing how children played matched up with the children playing in either the Middle East or Greece. You could even see this type of play in a schoolyard today. Dolls were made from what was on hand. You can see from these 2 examples, they were made with bone, with leather, with extra fabric. A child would have taken these toys and made something from them to play with. Homer, in his stories, actually mentions a dollhouse made by children. Once again, you can see the dollhouse in the lower corner. You can see the dolls made from scrap fabric, made from bone, and these are done from children that were in, once again, the Middle East. And this tradition of play has survived all the way from ancient times up until modern times. This deals with compassion and care. The University of Michigan found 2 papyrus. One is in regards to adoption and the other is in regards to fostering a child. One says, I ask you on the point of sailing down regarding the child, take it and raise it, and you will be happy if you do. You will find joy and pleasure. If you agree to raise the child, you will receive a greater allowance since it is freeborn, and you will find your own pleasure if you do it. Sail down in the boat in order that you may return with us together with the child. I am asking you to sail down so that you may prosper, for a freeborn child is one thing, and a slave child another. And then the other one states, agrees to nurse the infant slave from the garbage dump whose name is Thesis, who was entrusted to her for 2 years, receiving from her each month 12 drachma, which is about $2,100 today. Both of these show that children were cared for. They did not have to be fostered. It was more in regards to compassion for the children, to take care of them, very similar to our fostered system today. The next era I want to cover is the Viking era. This can be broken into two sections of pre-Christianity in view to childhood and post-Christianity conversion. This is where it will contain some elements of childhood death. Pre-Christian Vikings were very pragmatic and in some opinions very harsh. The land was bleak, resources minimal at times, and this created an attitude of having to grow up very fast. One main custom was, according to the forsaking law, every child must have a father. When a child was born, it was brought to the father and a naming ritual was done. If the father did not accept the child, it could lead to serious consequences, such as leaving the child to the elements and everything that would entail. King Olaf's Christian law, formulated in the 11th century, included legislation that sought to end this practice. However, children that were born with serious physical deformities, such as reversed facial features or misplaced limbs, would be brought to a church, converted from paganism, and left to the elements. Children were expected to contribute to their households from a very early age. The cultural norm was actually to see children as miniature adults, and they were required to help with farming tasks such as tending livestock and domestic chores such as textile work, food preparation, managing a household, learning how to prepare it for battle. Boys were trained at a very early age in Viking warfare. In the environment of the North, life expectancy was not that impressive, and children were required to take on a very adult roles. In the Gisla saga, Helgi, who is only 12, and Birger, who is 11, are required to take up arms and avenge the death of their father. Play also was very rough and could result in death or instigating family battles, such as Eagle Saga. A 7-year-old eagle, Skallgrimsson, is playing in a mock battle when he goes against an older, stronger boy and is defeated. He attacks his opponent with a stick and then later seeks out an axe and kills the older boy. The chain of events leads to a full-fledged blood battle, killing 7 grown men. Even with the perceived violent nature of the Viking, there is evidence found in Trondheim of toy boats, knucklebones, miniature versions of weapons, games such as Nafatafil, a kind of Viking chess game, skates, small ships, and several millstones and small cookery, which led researchers to believe children were playing with them to mimic adult roles. Once Christianity arrived, the shift from pagan gods to Christian gods is evident. Vikings would actually take their children, the Nordic people, I should say, would actually take their children to shrines and pray for their health. And there was quite a few children at that time. In the paper Children at the Shrines of Royal Nordic Saints by Rakel Iglin Dyson, they note that the Nordic medieval scene, the sheer number of children is noteworthy. In Scandinavia, the section of people below 15 years of age is estimated to make up as much as 45 to 50% of the population, and youths 15 to 19 years of age make up the other 10%. At least 10%, sorry. Several European surveys of medieval populations show similar numbers and find children and the young to have made up the majority of the populace in the high Middle Ages. With such a large population, they must have had a clear presence in medieval society and been a major contributing factor to how things were viewed. This actually leads us to the medieval time frame. In the YouTube video, What Life Was Really Like for Medieval Children, Dr. Stephen Baxter noted that even though almost half of the children would die before reaching 18 and had to grow up very fast, they still had a richly rewarding childhood. His research splits the culture into 3 groups: those who prayed, those who fought, and those who worked. In these categories, some children would have been sent to a monastery or nunneries to ensure their family's place in heaven. A gift of a child to the Christian God was considered one of utmost sacrifice, and the child would pray for the sins of the family. Those that fought would have sent children to be pages of knights, or the more noble would have become squires. Those that worked often would have worked with their families on the land or been sent to an apprentice to the local craftsman, such as blacksmith, butcher, or to work in a large noble manor house. Yet there is still evidence of them playing. And we can see in the outlines of manuscripts, you can see children playing with their toys, things that looks like a beanbag game, or like Ring Around the Rosies. You can see them playing with puppets. And just as child back then would have heard stories of King Arthur and the noble knights and would have gone out to play with their friends, I'm King Arthur and you're going to be Sir Lancelot, just like children nowadays, I'm Iron Man and you're going to be Spider-Man and we're going to fight. It's exactly the same type of thing. As you can see, the evidence of the person making dolls and the evidence of them playing and watching the puppet show. You can see evidence in these pictures of them playing with the rolling hoops and a hobby horse of some type, and you can also see in the picture on the right of a hobby horse. So these were common toys that were used at the time. There is a toy shop that was found in Freiburg, Germany, of 40 clay figurines, such as women with headdresses, men in capes, horses, and mothers cradling children, all of which are unmistakably toys that would have been sold. The excavation leader Benjamin Hamm said that the toys offer an unprecedented glimpse into the lives of children in the Middle Ages. To quote, "They touch us because they represent play. It is moving to see that beyond war, plague, and religious strife, there was still a space for childhood play." You can see examples of play in Peter Bruegel's Childhood Play and in the margins of medieval manuscripts, as we have seen earlier. In Peter Bruegel's painting, it shows at least 80 different forms of play. If you remember, at the beginning of class, I asked how you would play with the different items around you. The painting shows exactly that. Children using found objects to play. They are climbing trees, they are playing tag, they are playing dress up, all the things children would have done and will continue to do so for the rest of time. This looks very much to me like a scene from any type of childhood elementary school as you look around. As I stated, you can see them playing on the railing, you can see them playing dress up. This is exactly what children have done and will continue to do. And I thank you for your time.